Have you ever found yourself trapped in a situation so awkward, so cringeworthy, that even years later, you wake up at 3 a.m. cringing into your pillow? Well, that's me, and my best friend Amanda's wedding was the scene of the crime. Let me back up a bit and give you some context. Amanda and I have been best friends since middle school. We were the classic odd duo, me, the awkward bookworm with a penchant for tripping over my own feet, and Amanda, the social butterfly who could charm her way out of detention. Over the years, we stuck together through everything: bad haircuts, failed exams, and that one time we tried to make our own candles and nearly burned her mom's kitchen down. When Amanda announced she was marrying Mike, her college sweetheart, I was genuinely thrilled. She deserved happiness, and Mike seemed like the type of guy who could give it to her. When Amanda asked me to be her maid of honor, I accepted without hesitation. But my joy turned into mild anxiety when she casually added, "Oh, and you'll have a +1." It was such a simple, well-meaning comment, but to someone who had been single for over 2 years, it felt like an emotional gut punch. At first, I laughed it off. Yeah, sure. A +1, no problem. Famous last words. The problem, of course, was that I didn't have a 1 to plus. My dating life was about as lively as a library at 3 a.m. But I wasn't about to admit that to Amanda. So I dove headfirst into what I later referred to as Operation +1. The mission started with a full-scale assault on dating apps. I swiped so much that I developed a repetitive stress injury in my thumb. I went on dates with an alarming assortment of mismatched personalities: the guy who wouldn't stop talking about his Bitcoin investments, the guy who brought his mom to the date, no, I'm not joking, and the guy who insisted on ordering for me because he thought I looked like a salad person. It was a nightmare. When that failed, I turned to friends for help. Do you know anyone single? Anyone at all? I begged, sounding more desperate than I'd like to admit. My friends tried, bless them, but their suggestions were questionable. One friend introduced me to her quirky coworker who spent the entire coffee date ranking his top 10 favorite types of grass. With less than 3 weeks until the wedding, my anxiety was through the roof. Amanda kept texting me things like, "So excited to meet your date. Is he wearing a black or navy tie? I need to know for the seating chart." Every message felt like a ticking time bomb. I even attended a speed dating event, where I managed to spill wine on 3 different people before the night was over. My desperation was turning me into a walking disaster. Enter my cousin Jake. Jake, who had the social sensitivity of a brick, casually suggested something I should have dismissed immediately but didn't. Why don't you just, I don't know, make someone up? Say he's sick at the last minute. No one would know. Make someone up? Are you insane? I asked, incredulous. But his words planted a dangerous idea in my mind. Maybe I didn't need an actual person. Maybe all I needed was the illusion of one. And that's how Andrew was born. Andrew was the perfect date, at least on paper. He was tall, handsome, and charming, basically the human equivalent of a rom-com leading man. I gave him a backstory: he was a software engineer who loved hiking and had a quirky sense of humor. I even found a stock photo of a ridiculously good-looking guy to use as proof if anyone asked. The plan was simple: I'd talk about Andrew leading up to the wedding, then at the last minute, I'd say he couldn't come due to a stomach bug or an urgent work emergency. No one would question it. At least, that's what I thought. The wedding weekend arrived, and I was as prepared as I could be. I had rehearsed my "Andrew is so sorry he couldn't make it" speech until I could deliver it in my sleep. At the rehearsal dinner, I strutted in feeling oddly confident. Amanda greeted me with her usual warmth, and for a brief moment, I thought I might actually pull this off. Then she said the words that turned my world upside down: "Oh my gosh, Andrew is here already. I met him earlier. He's such a sweetheart." My stomach dropped. My brain short-circuited. Amanda must have noticed the look of sheer confusion on my face because she laughed and added, "You didn't know? He said he wanted to surprise you, so he came early. He's over there, talking to Mike." I followed her gaze, and there, standing by the buffet table, was a man who looked exactly like the stock photo I'd used for Andrew. Tall, dark-haired, and wearing a tailored suit that screamed, "I have my life together." Who the hell was this guy? I stared at the man Amanda had just identified as Andrew, feeling like I'd been thrown into an alternate universe. He wasn't just vaguely similar to the stock photo I'd used, he was a near-perfect match. My first thought was that someone had to be pranking me. Maybe Jake had orchestrated this whole thing, hiring an actor to teach me a lesson about lying. But then I thought, Jake's too lazy to plan something this elaborate. Amanda, blissfully unaware of my inner meltdown, continued gushing. "He's so sweet, by the way. He was asking all about you. I told him you'd probably be here any minute. You two are so cute together." "Cute together," I echoed weakly, my voice an octave higher than usual. Amanda gave me a funny look but didn't press the issue. She was quickly pulled away by one of her bridesmaids to deal with a flower arrangement crisis, leaving me alone to deal with the human embodiment of my lie. I tried to make sense of the situation. Who was this guy? Why was he here? And most importantly, what was I supposed to do now? The logical thing would have been to march over to him, explain the mix-up, and hope he didn't think I was a lunatic. But logic had officially abandoned me. Instead, I did what any self-respecting adult would do, I ducked behind a decorative column and tried to avoid being seen. From my hiding spot, I watched him. He was chatting with Mike, laughing at something the groom said. He seemed normal. Like a real person. Which, of course, he was, just not a real person I knew. My heart pounded as I considered my options. Option 1, sneak out of the venue and fake my own death to avoid the fallout. Option 2, confront the stranger and confess everything. Or Option 3, pretend like nothing was wrong and hope for the best. Naturally, I went with Option 3. I took a deep breath, smoothed my dress, and walked over to the buffet table where Andrew was standing. He turned toward me as I approached, flashing a polite smile. Up close, he was even more handsome than the stock photo, great cheekbones, warm brown eyes, and a relaxed confidence that made my awkwardness feel even more glaring. "Hi," I managed to squeak out. "Hi," he replied, extending a hand. "You must be Lily." I froze. He knew my name. Of course, he knew my name. Amanda had probably told him, but still, hearing it come out of his mouth made this whole thing feel even weirder. I shook his hand, trying not to look as freaked out as I felt. Yeah. Lily. That's me. And you're Andrew?" I said it like a question, as if I wasn't entirely sure of his identity, which, to be fair, I wasn't. He chuckled. "Guilty as charged. Amanda's been telling me all about you." "She has?" My voice cracked slightly, and I cleared my throat to recover. "I mean, of course, she has." "That's great." We stood there in awkward silence for a moment, and I desperately tried to come up with something to say. Finally, he broke the tension. "So, should I be worried?" he asked, his tone teasing. "Worried about what? You're looking at me like I have two heads. Did I do something wrong already?" I laughed nervously. No. You're fine. I wasn't expecting you to be here, that's all." "Well, surprise." He grinned. "I wanted to make a good impression. Amanda told me how important this wedding is to you, so I figured I'd show up and support you." Oh God. He thought he was my date. Somehow, this stranger had been roped into playing the role of Andrew, and he was fully committed to the part. My brain scrambled for an explanation, but I couldn't think of one that wouldn't make me look insane. Before I could respond, Amanda swooped back in, beaming. I see you two have found each other. Isn't Andrew amazing? Amazing, I echoed weakly, wishing I could evaporate on the spot. Amanda linked her arm through mine and whispered, don't let him get away, okay? He's a keeper. Then, she winked and left us alone again. I turned back to Andrew, who was looking at me with a mix of amusement and curiosity. So, he said, what's the plan for tonight? Do I get the full maid of honor experience? I forced a smile, my brain screaming, what does that even mean? Yeah, I stammered. Of course. The full experience. Totally. Great, he said, clearly unfazed by my awkwardness. Lead the way. And just like that, I found myself saddled with a mysterious stranger who was somehow both the perfect embodiment of my imaginary boyfriend and a walking, talking reminder of my colossal lie. I had no idea who he was, why he was here, or how I was going to survive the next 48 hours without the truth coming out. But one thing was certain, things were about to get a whole lot more complicated. I spent the rest of the rehearsal dinner in a state of near panic, trying to juggle two competing realities, the one where I had invented Andrew as a convenient lie and the one where he was now inexplicably real and very much attending the wedding. Andrew seemed perfectly comfortable in his role, chatting easily with Amanda's family, joking with the groomsmen, and even managing to charm Amanda's notoriously grumpy grandmother. Meanwhile, I was sweating through my dress and dodging questions like a politician at a press conference. Where did you two meet? Amanda's aunt asked over dessert. Online, I blurted, because it was the only thing I could think of that wasn't a total lie. Oh, how romantic, she cooed. You hear about these horror stories with online dating, but you two seem like such a perfect match. I smiled weakly, resisting the urge to crawl under the table. Yeah, we just clicked, I said, which was technically true since I'd clicked on his stock photo while inventing him. The real Andrew didn't miss a beat. It's funny, he added smoothly, we almost didn't meet. She swiped left on me at first, but I was persistent. I shot him a look that was equal parts admiration and sheer terror. Who was this man, and how was he so good at playing along? By the time the dinner ended, I was emotionally exhausted. Andrew and I walked out of the venue together, and I was already rehearsing how to confront him about the situation without sounding like a lunatic. But before I could say anything, he turned to me with a grin. So, he said, are you going to tell me what's going on, or should I guess? My heart sank. What do you mean? I asked, my voice shaky. He raised an eyebrow. Come on, Lily. I'm not stupid. You've been acting like you've seen a ghost all night, and Amanda told me you're the one who invited me. Except, funny thing, I have no memory of meeting you before today. Care to explain? I felt like I was going to throw up. There was no point in lying anymore. Okay, I admitted, this is going to sound insane, but I didn't invite you. I don't even know who you are. He blinked, clearly surprised by my honesty. Wait, what? Then who? I made you up. I interrupted, my words spilling out in a panicked rush. I didn't have a date, so I invented one, and I used a stock photo, and somehow you showed up, Anne. I stopped, realizing how insane I sounded. He stared at me for a moment, then burst out laughing. Wait, he said between chuckles, you're telling me I'm some kind of imaginary boyfriend who came to life? Pretty much, I mumbled, my face burning with embarrassment. Well, he said, still grinning, this is officially the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. Trust me, it's not exactly normal for me either, I muttered. He held up his hands in mock surrender. Okay. Let's start over. My name's Daniel, by the way, not Andrew. I'm a friend of Mike's. He asked me to step in as your date because Amanda was worried you'd feel out of place without one. I stared at him, stunned. Wait, what? Mike knew? Apparently Amanda told him you were struggling to find a date, and he didn't want you to feel awkward, Daniel explained. So he asked me to fill in. I had no idea about your, creative backstory until now. My embarrassment turned to fury. I'm going to kill Mike, I muttered. Daniel laughed. In his defense, he was just trying to help. And hey, I've had worse blind dates. Despite myself, I laughed too. This isn't exactly a normal blind date, I pointed out. True, he agreed. But it's definitely memorable. The next day, at the wedding, things were surprisingly okay. Daniel turned out to be great company, and he managed to keep the whole imaginary boyfriend thing under wraps. He even helped me fend off nosy relatives who kept asking when we were getting married. By the end of the night, I realized I actually liked him, not as my fake date, but as a real person. When the wedding was over, and we said our goodbyes, he hesitated for a moment before asking, "So, does this mean I'm officially retired as your imaginary boyfriend, or do I get a chance to be a real one?" I blushed, suddenly feeling like I was in a rom-com. "I think we could give the real thing a shot," I said, smiling. And just like that, what started as the most awkward, embarrassing situation of my life turned into something I'd never expected, the beginning of a real relationship. Who would have thought? Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe and turn on notifications to be the first to have radish and real stories with you. Have a great day.